So a brickmaker in the 18th century, their jobs would be to produce the brick needed for either public or private work. That could be as simple as someone who's quite wealthy, who wants their own brick home, or it could be something more extravagant like our own Governor's Palace or Capitol building.
This part of Tidewater, Virginia, sort of the eastern third of Virginia, is uniquely set up for brickmaking. There's clay everywhere you dig. It's all that silt buildup around the Chesapeake Bay. There's a lot of sand. Sand is used on the inside of our molds to keep the clay from sticking. And then you've got a whole lot of oak as your fuel to eventually fuel the fires for the kiln. That makes this part of Virginia a perfect place to make bricks. And unfortunately, because you also need a whole lot of labor, Virginia's tobacco economy means that there's a lot of enslaved labor that ends up making those bricks. For most of human history, brickmaking is something that is done by some form of forced labor. Here in Virginia, that's going to mean a lot of enslaved folks making bricks. But you're just as likely to see prisoners of war, convicts, indentured servants.
All right, let's move this thing then.
You're basically up to your knees in clay that's sticking to you all the time. It's physically demanding work as you move from different sections of the pit, trying to get that clay worked up to the right consistency. You'll have someone cutting out that clay, someone bringing it up to the table, and then someone molding it. You will create kind of a loaf shape as you're rolling it in sand that is on the table. You'll line it with a little bit of sand as well. That is your release mechanism. And once you got your pone or the sort of loaf shape, you'll then pack it into the form. You're packing that clay in to try to fill out all the edges of the mold itself. And then you'll usually hand it to an off-bearer. That is traditionally a child's job, maybe a child about maybe 10 to 12 years old. They'll run it over to the big sand beds. That's the drying bed where they'll tip that mold over and allow the bricks to slip out.
The brickmaker is kind of the first tradesman you're going to see when you're having something constructed, because obviously they're making the bricks that make up the foundation. They'll also deal with bricklayers. Those are the folks that put the bricks together and actually build something. That is separate from brickmaking. Bricklayers serve an apprenticeship, whereas brickmakers don't. You'll also deal with carpenters and joiners and probably blacksmiths as well for figuring out the dimensions of the bricks, having the molds made, having your tools made and repaired.
Typically for Williamsburg, there is an expectation based on a building code from 1705 that states you should build with enough brick to make a foundation and a chimney, but the rest is technically up to your discretion when it comes to a wooden structure. For us, that means an average building could be somewhere around 45,000 bricks, or it could be quite a bit bigger, like for example, the Wythe House would be closer to 250,000 bricks. So for us, as historic masonry trades, making brick for restorations or reconstructions, that number is always moving. We can expect to reliably make between 10 and 20,000 bricks in a given summer to suit that need.
Due to the temporary nature of a brickyard in 18th century Virginia, you don't have a permanent oven, you don't have a permanent kiln for burning bricks. So typically at the end of your season, you take all the available green bricks, the sun-dried bricks that you've produced all season, and you stack them up, big 10-foot tall mass.
The kiln, also known as a clamp meaning stack in Old English. A lot of our work surrounds around the stacking of brick.
The kilns are a 24-hour-a-day process. You have people working here day and night, constantly maintaining those fires, constantly watching the kiln and seeing how it reacts to increases in heat for 4 to 6 days.
As we get hotter and hotter by adding more and more fuel, a glow will start from the bricks having superheated. There should also be a definite slump, and that shows us that the entire clamp has been baked, has shrunk, and has settled.
And then you tear it all down once that work is done, and we do that every fall here in Williamsburg.
Continuing to do this work where we are understanding on a very intimate level how brickmaking happens, how you do preservation work, how you do build a structure in an 18th century manner. And if we don't continue to do that, then we lose sight of how to maintain them for the next generation.